Recently on Woodworking with Wes, we did a video showing the construction of this column that we made for an island, kitchen island that was being built. While we were building this column, we built 4 of these columns with a much larger top and bottom overlay that we're going to be using to build a bath vanity. Let's show you what we're up to. If you've watched any of my videos in the past, you've seen my crude drawings. And so we're going to show you another one today. This is our bath vanity. Our bath vanity will be 24 inches deep, 83 inches wide from the outside post to the outside post. It will have a shelf, an open shelf underneath, and it will have a 10-inch skirt that will go in between the columns that will hide the plumbing and the sinks. I drew a full-size layout of just one side of it so that you could kind of see what we're going to be doing, and that tells me the measurements that I need to make my skirts and my shelf. Here's our 6x6 posts right here. Our side skirt is going to be 12 inches, and that will also be the end of our open shelf down low with a 3/4 inch face. Our front of our vanity between the posts will be 71 inches. So that will be the length of our skirt and again the length of our open shelf down low. Our sink will be on both sides and there'll be a center drawer. We'll get to that when we get ready to do the skirt. But this gives you an idea of what we're going to be doing, and we're going to start by making the skirt pieces, turning our posts upside down and attaching our skirts with pocket screws. Let's get started. These are our side skirts. They are pocket hole drilled to go between the 2 posts. We'll go here and here. This is the inside. I put this top support and bottom support piece so that my columns will remain good and square against my skirt, and that keeps my vanity square. I'll do the same thing on the skirt that runs side to side across the front. But this just is a squaring mechanism just to make sure that my posts stay square when I pocket screw them together. This is our front skirt. We've cut out for a drawer that is going to go between the 2 sinks. This is the top part of our skirt. This is the bottom. This is our piece of support that we're going to put on it, just like we did on our side pieces. And we're going to do it the same way. We're going to glue and nail. I made me some little spacers to hold it flat while I glue and nail, but let's go ahead and put some glue on it and put some nails in it. And then we're going to get close to having it ready. We've got some more support pieces that go on the back. We'll show you that when we tip it over. And we have to get ready to nail on some support pieces for the drawer guides. They will go in as we assemble the top part of the skirt between the posts. But we're going to go ahead and put some support pieces in so that drawer guide piece will be, we'll line it up flush. We already cut it to length. Okay, and we're just attaching it with 1.5 inch 18 gauge nails. Again, this will be kind of a guarantee to make sure that our posts stay square. All right, there's that piece nailed in. Now we'll go around to the bottom side and we'll nail in these 1.25 inch cleats across the bottom to create a structure to be able to put our little box that we do for our drawer guides and for our one drawer. This little cleat that we're nailing on the bottom of our skirt on the back side will be to support the drawer mechanism anchors that we're going to be putting in. The drawer guide that we're putting in is just going to be a small drawer that fits in the center, and it's going to have side guides, and we've got to create a little box that allows for those drawer guides. These are the support pieces for that little box. And it just gives us something to nail to as we assemble our skirt to the posts. And our little box will fit right here as we assemble our top part, our skirt part. Now, what we're going to do next is, because these pieces fit between posts and the skirts are recessed 1 inch back from the face of the post. So this has to be sanded before we put it together, because you won't be able to sand in here and get it sanded properly. So I'm not going to have you watch me sand, but I'm going to go ahead and sand the faces of my front skirt and my side skirts, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the pocket screws in and assemble. See you there. We're getting ready to assemble the top of our vanity right now. We have it turned upside down. These are the skirt pieces that we made. This is the side assembly of the vanity. I have clamped on a 1 inch thick stick right here to give me a backdrop or a spacer stick to screw my skirt to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it around like this, and I'm going to put my pocket screws in here. My clamped on 1 inch stick will keep my skirt from sliding forward. And then we'll do the same on the other side, and then our side assembly will be done. And we'll do that on both sides, and then we'll do the same thing for clamping on and putting on the front skirt when we get there. So right now, let's go ahead and put on this skirt. There'll be no glue because we're screwing end grain into face grain. There's no way the glue would hold over the long term. So we put the pocket screws like this, and the pocket screws pull that skirt tight to the post. We'll turn it around like this, remove our clamps and our spacer stick, and there's our skirt, just like it's supposed to be. Now we'll do the same thing to the other post, and this side will be done, and then we'll do the other side same way. We'll come back when we're done with that. I now have the two ends put together. I've also installed the back hanging cleat, and we're getting ready to install the front skirt. Once again, I have clamped on my little 1 inch spacer, and we're going to move this like this. We'll slide it in like this. We'll put our 3 screws here, move our spacer stick down there, and put that in. So I'll have you come around to the back side here, and we'll watch me put in the screws on the back side of the skirt. Let's go ahead and put these screws in. By having that spacer stick in the front, as the pocket screw pushes the board forward, it only pushes it forward up to the 1 inch that I've blocked off with that spacer stick. Okay, we'll move our spacer stick to the other end and do the same thing. We now have the skirt portion of our vanity done. Remember, this is upside down. This is our front, this is our hanging cleat in our back, and our side skirts are there. We're going to be installing a drawer, the drawer side, some support pieces in here. But the next step that we've got to do is the shelf that will be going from post to post at about this level. Remember, we're upside down. Let's take a look at that shelf. Referring back to our drawing and our layout sheet, remember our drawing, we have a shelf that is going to be 6 inches off the ground with a 2 inch facing that goes around it. This line here, these 3/4 inch faces. This is the facings to our shelf. Here's our posts, the layout that we did. By measuring and determining what we're doing, we've determined that our shelf is going to be 21.5 inches deep and 79.5 inches long. That includes coming clear out to these lines here, and then we'll be cutting the corners out of our shelf to go around our post. We're going to go there next. We'll go ahead and cut out our piece of plywood, and then we'll get ready to put our facings on. We've now completed the cutout of our shelf. These are our solid face pieces. We will be nailing with an 18 gauge 1.5 nail. Our face pieces will go on the ends and on the face pieces like this, just glue and face nail. And then we'll putty and sand, and that will complete the shelf portion of our vanity until we get ready to install. We made one mistake. As we were nailing our ends on, I realized that I had forgot to drill my pocket holes on the underneath side of my shelf. I've now flipped it over. We're going to put some pocket holes here so that when we mount our shelf, we'll be mounting it from underneath and installing our shelf with pocket screws from the underneath side. We're going to be putting some pocket screws here and here to screw into the posts, and we're going to put one pocket screw at the end of our long pieces to pull our posts together. Sorry about that. We were supposed to do that before we nailed the edges on. Let's do it now. We've now completed drilling our pocket holes in our shelf and in our skirts, and we're going to go ahead now and complete putting our skirt on and get ready to turn over for sanding. But you can see how if I didn't have those on prior to getting everything done, it would be very difficult to get those put on, and so that's important. I'm glad I caught that before it was too late. We nailed our edges onto our shelf and puttied the edges. I wanted to talk a little bit about the way I nail on the edges, the way I putty, and the way I sand. So let's come up close here and take a look. When you get done sanding, the purpose of sanding is to bring the surface of your hardwood down to a smooth surface of your plywood shelf. I was taught when I first got started it was okay to see a joint, but it was never okay to feel one. So smooth enough that you wouldn't feel it. So when I nail my edges on, I always nail with the hardwood being just a little bit above the surface of the plywood. And then I go through and I putty that edge. And then as I begin to sand, as I sand through or sand the hardwood edge, I sand through some of the putty that I've put on there. And when the putty starts to disappear, I know that I'm getting close to having both surfaces the exact same. And then when the putty completely disappears, that's when I stop my sanding, and I start with 80 grit. I start with my 80 grit and I sand down my hardwood edge and my putty with my 80 grit. Once that putty disappears, then I change over to 120. I smooth my surface once again, being very careful. I mean, veneer is very thin, so you want to be sure that you don't sand through your veneer, and that's one of the things that the putty helps you do, is not sand through the veneer. Then I go back, I sand 120, I break all my edges, and then on my final sand, I just do a smooth sand with my 150, which is my final sand. So 80 grit, 120 grit, 150 grit to a final sand. But the putty that I put on here, not only does that fill any gaps, but it's almost more of an indicator of how much sanding I should do. And always remember, how good your finish turns out is how good your sanding is. Make sure you learn to sand really good, because then your finishes will always turn out better. We're going to watch me do a little bit of sanding, but I won't make you watch the whole thing. Let's get started. Okay, our shelf is all done, all sanded, ready to install. So that's our next step. Before we get ready to install our bottom shelf, we've got to put in the little box assembly for the drawer guides. I've cut two sides. I've made a little notch up on the front because my front stretcher is thicker than my back stretcher by a quarter of an or eighth of an inch. And so what I'm going to do is install these pieces, one like that, and one like that, and a support piece across. I have marked my back rail where I want these pieces to go. We're going to do a partial assembly from the bottom side, install our shelf, flip it over, and finish the assembly from the top side. But let's go ahead and start putting this together right now so that we can get ready for our shelf. To make sure that our shelf is right where it's supposed to be, we cut some spacers, and we're going to space off of the front and back skirt so that our shelf sits at 8 inches off the floor. I've taken my measurements and cut my skirts, or my spacers. We're going to just clamp the spacer to our post, and that will hold it in place as we get ready to put our shelf in place. And what we'll do is we'll lower our shelf down and sit right on top of our spacer, front and back, and our shelf will be perfectly level because of the measurements that we've taken. And we'll do that on all 4 posts and set our shelf down on it. You want to make sure. So we're going to slide her down. Perfect. Okay, we have completed our vanity build now. Just a couple of points of clarification. This is plain slice white oak. We don't know what color it's going to get stained because as just being a client job, we're not providing the stain finish. This is going to be stained, finished, and installed by the client that we build it for. They are also providing a drawer and a drawer face to match additional work that's being going on in the house. So this is as far as we are involved in this job, but I wanted you to see a really cool vanity build. A vanity with no cabinets. One drawer, but lots of open shelf space underneath. This is going to look way cool in their bathroom. We're excited, and I'm going to ask him for a picture when we get all done. He'll give it to me, I'm sure, and we'll maybe show that on Woodworking with Wes.